Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I'm Peter Gross, co-host of the original Wild Kingdom with Marlon Perkins and Jim Fowler. In the early days of filming wildlife, as you'll see tonight, researchers had to capture animals in order to observe and learn from them. But that's no longer the case today. Modern technology such as drones and satellite tracking offer new ways to study animals in their natural habitat with less intrusion from human touch. Wild Kingdom set the gold standard for nature programming and introduced generations of young people to the wonders of the natural world. Fortunately, the successful research that began with our original series helped many animals make a comeback from the threat of extinction. And that's good news for the Wild Kingdom. So sit back, relax, and enjoy Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom right here on RFD-TV.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom is presented by Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on.
Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. Of all the wildlife projects I've taken part in over the years, none have been more rewarding than those designed to help save an animal which is disappearing from its native habitat. That's why I was eager to accept an invitation to join a relocation project involving this animal, the pine marten. The marten is a quick and agile hunter that seeks its prey in the treetops. When lumbering eliminated most of its forest home in Wisconsin years ago, the marten disappeared. But now, scientists of the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the Forest Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, in cooperation with the Ontario Ministry of Natural Resources, are trapping martens here in Canada where they're still plentiful. The idea is to relocate them here in Wisconsin's Nicolet National Forest. In order to learn what happens to the animals after they are released, how far they travel, and what habitat they finally settle in, it was necessary to track individual martens. The plan was to fit a group of animals with radio collars so they could be followed by a man carrying a backpack receiver. The scientists were ready to test the plan as I joined the research team at Ranger Headquarters in the Nicolet National Forest to take part in the return of the pine marten. This headquarters cabin is the receiving point for the pine marten shipped to the Nicolet National Forest. And the first animals have arrived in their aluminum cages. Each of the martens will be tagged by Wisconsin State wildlife biologist Phil Vonderschagen and Larry Martolio of the U.S. Forest Service. Wearing leather mittens for protection against the marten's sharp teeth, they fit a canvas sleeve around one end of the cage. This is part of a tagging system designed to give maximum control with minimum handling. The idea is to work the marten through the sleeve into this special squeeze cage where we'll be able to hold the animal securely. He can't bite through that canvas, and we can safely push him up into the squeeze cage, constructed like the ribs of an umbrella, so it can be closed snugly around the marten, restricting his movement. He's not supposed to be able to do that. Larry quickly pushes him back in, and now the marten is secure in the cage. The animal's ear can be easily reached for tagging. The metal tag is clamped into place quickly, with little discomfort to the animal. This is a young male, and his sex, age, weight, and the location of his release site will be recorded with his tag number. In this way, scientists can keep track of individual martens. For insurance, a second tag is placed in the other ear. Since all the martens being introduced into the Nicolet Forest will wear ear tags, if a marten is ever sighted without one, researchers will know these original animals have produced offspring. This male will be one of several pine martens fitted with radio transmitters by a research team from the University of Wisconsin. To attach the transmitter, the marten must be removed from the cage, and a mild anesthetic will be used to make him more handleable. The plastic envelope confines the fumes to the animal. While this animal becomes drowsy, a second animal is being prepared for tagging. The marten is only partially anesthetized. He's just groggy enough to make handling safe. The marten will wear the transmitter around his neck because it's contained in a small collar that can be securely attached to the animal. The radio is tiny but powerful, with a range of half a mile. The collar is light, so it will not interfere with the marten's normal activity in any way. Once the lock nut is firmly attached, the transmitter, rugged, durable, and weatherproof, will remain for the duration of the project. A few more turns and the collar will be locked securely. The marten will soon become more active as the light anesthetic begins to wear off, but we're almost through. The transmitter itself is contained in the bulge of the collar. It's a special design that gives full output even in the low temperatures of northern winters. He's reviving quickly, and it's time to return him to his cage. If the transmitter works as the scientists hope, they'll be able to follow the movements of this animal after he's released to learn how far the martens travel and what kind of habitat they prefer. He'll be in this cage only a short while longer because the project team plans to release these animals today. The other martens have been tagged, and now we'll move to the release site. Near the cabin, a snowshoe hare is visible against some low pine branches. Many animals make their home in the Nicolet Forest, and if this project succeeds, a growing marten population may join them. The snow that helps hide the hare from predators may make it possible to locate some of these martens after release simply by following their tracks. Several other martens have been tagged today, and now they'll be released at 4 sites the biologists have selected. The animals are aboard, and we're ready to go. We're heading deeper into the Nicolet Forest to the first of the release sites. The trees and cover are much denser here, ideal habitat for pine martens. This area has been chosen for our first release. At each of these sites, the biologists will release males and females in the hope of establishing mating pairs. A tagged male is selected, and this female will join him. She's wearing a radio collar fitted earlier today. Phil Vonderschagen and Mark Davis, wildlife biologists from the University of Wisconsin, will release the martens not far from the road in this open area. First, the radio collar must be checked. Mark is an expert at radio tracking. The receiver is picking up the signal loud and clear. The transmitter's working perfectly, and when this animal moves into the deep forest, that signal will be the only way we can locate her. Everything is ready for the release. She's heading for the pine and spruce trees surrounding this clearing. And now the male will be set free, hopefully to join her. Future observations of these animals after the release will be directed by Larry Martolio and Dr. Ray Anderson of the University of Wisconsin. The question is whether we'll be able to find them again for further study. After releasing the pine martens in the Nicolet Forest, Mark Davis waited several days before attempting to track them with his special radio receiver. The easiest way to travel through the deep snow of the forest is on cross-country skis. Mark carries all the equipment we'll need today in 2 small packs, the radio receiver in front and a directional antenna in back. The trees end just ahead at the bank of a frozen lake, where an otter seems to be enjoying the snow. It appears that he's been searching for a hole in the ice so he can fish. But like most otters, he'd probably rather just play. The cold doesn't bother him at all. A layer of insulating fat and a coat of very thick fur keep him warm and comfortable all winter long. He's seen us. The eyesight of otters isn't exceptional, but it's obvious that he's picked us out among the trees. But he doesn't seem at all concerned about our presence here. In winter, these animals must often travel many miles to find open water for fishing. But while this is the time of hardship for many animals, for otters it seems that this is just another time for fun. We've come several miles from the release site, and we'll leave the otter's frozen lake to continue our search for the pine marten in the deep woods. So far, we've picked up no signal from the marten's collar transmitter, but we'll try again. The receiving antenna Mark uses is very highly directional, so the signal will be strongest when the antenna is pointing directly at the marten. By searching for the best signal, Mark can begin pinpointing the marten's location. But we're still not receiving a signal, which means the marten may have moved deeper into the forest than we thought. These dense trees surrounding us have a tendency to cut down the radio's range. Mark is getting no signal here, and so we'll try again in a more open area up ahead. The only way we can locate the animal is by systematically tracking through all of this territory until we pick up a signal with the directional antenna. Our sudden approach has startled some white-tailed deer. Mark will sweep the countryside once more with his antenna, trying to pick up the marten's signal. He seems to be getting something now. It's coming from a direction in front of us, just past the area where the deer are browsing. The deer seem healthy, but the scarcity of food in winter always takes a toll of these animals. The signal seems to be coming in strongest from just ahead and to our right. The idea is to listen for an increase in volume. That means the antenna is pointed toward the marten. There's no doubt that's the direction it's coming from. Now all we need to do is move closer, letting the antenna point the way. Even in the still of winter, this forest is full of life. A coyote searching for small game. The signal is very strong now, and Mark is convinced the marten is in the nearby trees, not far from the carcass of a winter-killed deer. A carcass like this may provide food for many animals, and a possum has apparently been feeding on it. Pine martens, too, will come to a carcass like this, and judging from that signal, our marten must be very close. There, climbing into the top branches of a tall pine tree, the female marten. The radio collar is in place, and it's sending out a strong signal. From what we can see, she's fared well over the past several days since we released her. She still hasn't gotten used to that radio collar around her neck, and she's trying to scratch it off. But in a short time, she'll no longer take any notice of it. Not far from this female, Mark has spotted the other marten we released, the male. Apparently, the two martens have been traveling together, and that's a good sign, because it may mean that they'll eventually produce offspring. The pine martens seem perfectly at home here in these tall trees, and now that we've located them, we'll make detailed observations of their behavior here in this new habitat. One pair of the pine martens seemed to have selected the territory near the deer carcass, so we made a blind in a nearby tree in order that we might observe their behavior. Our blind is located about 20 feet high in the tree among the heavy branches where we'll be well hidden. From this vantage point, you can see the full majesty of the surrounding forest. The blind is large enough for Mark Davis to join me for our observations today. There's still much activity in the area, and on the forest floor below, the coyote continues to prowl. He may have been drawn into this part of the forest by the carcass of the winter-killed deer, or by prey like the possum. Just below us now, another forest hunter is moving into view. A bobcat pushing through the deep snow. It appears that the bobcat is seeking prey. They hunt by sight, not scent, and his sharp eyes are searching the forest for small game. He hasn't sighted any prey, but not far from the hunting bobcat, a snowshoe hare sits almost invisible on a low drift, anxiously watching every move the cat makes. Now, the only sign of life below is the possum at the deer carcass. He hasn't moved, and he's lucky the bobcat didn't spot him. The martens haven't approached the carcass, and it may be because the possum is there. But from our blind, we can catch sight of them darting through the nearby trees. This is the female with the radio collar. These animals are incredibly agile among the tree branches, and this is where they do most of their hunting, easily catching squirrels and other prey. They seem to prefer the treetops, and if the forest canopy is dense enough, they may travel for miles without touching the ground. The female seems to have adjusted to the collar. She's so quick and active, it's sometimes difficult to follow her movements. That leap is characteristic of these strong and graceful animals. Our observation post gives us an eye-level view of the marten, unobstructed by low branches. She seems perfectly at home here and intent on exploring every part of her new territory. Like all pine martens, she has a great natural curiosity. Martens tend to range widely, and that is why the radio collar is so important to this study. But so long as she remains here in this territory, we can make many valuable first-hand observations. Below our blind, the male has come into view, investigating the snow-covered forest floor. It's clear that the male is sharing this territory with the female, but we don't know yet why they have chosen this particular habitat. I'll continue our observations of the two pine martens here, while Mark leaves the blind temporarily to check progress at the other release sites. What we've seen of these martens so far is very encouraging. They seem to have adapted very well to this area, and it looks like they'll thrive here. So far, the project is successful, and we've moved one step closer to the day that the pine martens will return to the Nicolet National Forest. The pine martens we tracked and observed seem to be doing well in their new home in the Nicolet National Forest. But only after much more data is collected will the scientists know whether their project will be successful. If it is, the pine martens released here will multiply and repopulate their former range in the Wisconsin woodlands. The efforts of the biologists from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and the U.S. Forest Service help prove that with careful planning, we can preserve the living natural resources that are ours in the wild kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha, people you can count on, has presented Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha, helping people find Medicare solutions for over 50 years. To learn more about plan options or how to protect your kingdom, contact us today.
Mutual of Omaha. Protect your kingdom.